A public relations firm is primarily charged with helping its clients develop a communication strategy, whether it's proactive or reactive to a specific goal they're trying to achieve. When I was contacted for comment on Project Rawhide, it was very apparent to me after doing some additional research into how it all unfolded that there wasn't a communication strategy from the start. And I think that's a flaw when you're dealing with something that could potentially be controversial or when you're potentially pinning one side against the other. Because this project has people who are opposed to it and it has people who are in favor of it. And if you're not considering all of your audiences and how they might react and what your response is going to be to each, then you're setting yourself up for problems. And I think that's exactly what we saw happen with Project Rawhide. If a public relations firm had been involved with Project Rawhide, I think they would have taken a much more organized approach to the rollout of the communications. Our first step when we're involved with a client, whether it's a project like this or any project, would be to sit down and figure out what the objectives are. What do they want to get out of this? What are the problems? And get a big picture look at the scenario.
Public relations firms are experts in communications. So that's why it would have been advantageous to engage a public relations firm in the rollout of Project Rawhide. It's what PR firms do. They can see things that perhaps the people who are close to the project can't see. They may see opportunities, they see messages, they see potential roadblocks. So it's the job of the public relations firm to come in and fully assess the situation and from there determine the best strategies that are going to lead to the desired outcome. In this case, it doesn't appear that that happened. I think it seems that people were relying on their own opinions and bringing in an expert from the outside to engage in the process and drive the process from the standpoint of being the communications experts probably would have made a difference from the very beginning in how this was rolled out to the public and ultimately the outcome and where we are today.
Privacy is always respected in situations that are sensitive or confidential, or in the case of when a business wants to be protected. But there seems to be a cross between privacy when it crosses the line into secrecy. Then it becomes something a little bit darker, and it's something that the public doesn't understand. When they feel like secrets are being kept from them, when they feel like the people who they elected into office aren't being upfront with them, then it becomes a problem. And I think there was certainly a way with Project Rawhide to share with the public the information that was relevant to them without sacrificing any confidentiality agreements with businesses, but in a way that's educational to the public, that lets them know what's going on instead of having them find out just by happening upon some information. It makes it seem when that happens that something was being hidden from the public, and that's really never going to result in a positive outcome or positive feelings. I don't live in Fremont, so it doesn't directly affect me, and I honestly do see both sides of it, but I don't think there are certainly probably people in Fremont who maybe feel the same way. They can see both sides, but with the way the information was presented, I don't think it allowed anybody to form an educated opinion about the project. So much of it was kept behind closed doors, so much of it trickled out, and they really did themselves a disservice if they were trying to get people to buy into this, because proactively sharing some information from the beginning could have resulted in a different outcome. So it really prohibited people from making educated decisions on their own, and I think that's one of the downfalls. It's much harder to change opinions once strong opinions have been formed, even if those opinions aren't based on facts or truth or whatever messaging or positioning that they wanted to get out. So I think if they were to engage a public relations firm at this point, they could probably help them message the desired outcome. Would it change people's opinions? I'm not sure. We're so far down the road of people being very invested in this one way or the other that I think it's much harder to go back and sway public opinion now that there's so much wreckage, versus if it had been handled differently from the beginning. Certainly, I would think that if they were going to make an investment in a community, they would be following the news that's happening in the community, and it's pretty plain to see from the coverage that this is an issue that has divided people. Some are for it, some are against it. So if they feel like the community doesn't want them, there certainly seems to be that segment of people who don't want them. So that's something that they have to consider. And not being on the inside of it, I don't know exactly how anything unfolded, but I'm a little surprised that there wasn't a press team or a PR team from Costco that was working directly with the city to try to manage the messaging. If the city wasn't going to engage their own outside experts, I'm a little surprised that Costco didn't get involved, and perhaps they couldn't. Like I said, I'm not an expert in these types of business deals. I don't know the ins and outs, and I'm not on the inside. But perhaps there would have been a way or a happy medium in shaping the messaging to be what Costco would have ended up in a more desirable outcome for Costco if they really wanted to be in this community. You're going to have a huge uphill battle to climb if you're going into a community that has strong negative feelings about what you're trying to do. It's really hard to sell people on the positives of bringing jobs in or whatever other benefits they want to tout as part of this project. It's hard. It's a hard sell at that point because you have people who so passionately feel like it's not something they want in their backyard.